Right, hi, evening everyone. So, my name's Chris Rodd. I'm a senior product manager here in the invoicing team. So, my team is, we produce all of the tools that allow us to give all of the money back to our restaurant partners on time, basically, outside of work. What have I written? Outside of work I like running and watching rugby with my cat. I don't run with the cat, I watch rugby with the cat. Go.
Okay. So I'm Holly Bowman, I'm also a Just Eat. Oh, you already said that. And in my day-to-day job, I look after Just Eat's new content engineering team. And for the purposes of making it seem like I have a personality, I like to sleep a lot and swim in rivers. Yeah.
There we go. Introduction's over. So, yeah. What are we here to talk about? So, a couple of confessions, first of all. Number one, this is about a third of a much larger talk. We've been invited to talk at a software product management conference in about 6 weeks' time. So the full title is Product Management in a Post-Agile World. But this is the bit we haven't tested yet. So you know, like when you go and see a comedian and it's one of these work in progress shows? All feedback, please. We very much want it. That doesn't mean it's terrible. It just means that we want to improve it and make it really, really good. I'm really selling this. Okay.
Okay. So this is for the real bit. We're not doing a double apology. So yeah, first of all, don't hate us for talking about this. So we've tried this topic out on a few people now, and a lot of people stop listening at the point where we say post-agile, because it's sort of interpreted as agile is dead or agile is rubbish. I can honestly say that neither of us think that those things are true, and Chris and I both use agile methodologies in our professional lives, but we found out that all methodologies, agile has gaps and limitations, and this talk is about what it's like to work in the gap. So what is post-agile? And apparently it's having salad with friends instead of pizza. So agile, as we all know, solves a lot of problems. And we all know that what they are being told what to do and when by non-technical colleagues, and in a time frame which and the time frame in which to do them is obviously problematic. Agile lends itself to problem solving rather than production line assembly, which is what I'm going to guess most of us in this room do. However, anyone that's had to work in a business-facing role will confirm that there's nothing remotely attractive about agile words. So any phrases or processes around agile are not attractive to deadline-oriented business partners. They just want to know, with absolutely no equivocation or detail, when something will get done. We all know how that feels. So to be clear, a post-agile world is the one that we live in now, where agile has happened and we've meaningfully used it to improve the quality of the products that we develop, but where the business we work in is still largely not agile. And this is unlikely to change, which means that someone has to do the job of translating between the two realms, tech and business. Typically this would be a product manager, but for technical teams and startups this may also be an engineering lead.
So 2 words to strike fear into everyone's hearts.
Yeah, but don't worry, it's like really quick. How do we know that we're in a post-agile world? It's a common theme in PM discussions, so product management. The engineers have a team, the business has a team, but PMs are often in a group of one, running backwards and forwards between the two. And we wanted to find out how widespread this was, and we can share with you some of the results of a survey we conducted recently. But it'd be brilliant to try out this room to see with a bit of audience participation to see how this room matches up with our results.
So there's going to be some hand raising. So can you raise your hand if your organisation says that it adheres to an agile framework?
Any kind of agile framework.
Any kind of agile framework at all. I guess the question more is, don't raise your hand if they say they don't.
So that was about 50-50?
That was a lot of negatives. So, no, it was much more than that. It was about 80%.
Okay.
Okay, that's cool. So, then specifically within your team or within your work group or within your Scrum, I suppose, does that adhere to an agile framework? Raise your hands
team.
again. So does your team work within an agile framework? Similar, a bit less, more like kind of 60-40-ish. Okay, and then last one. Would you personally say that you work in an agile way?
However you define that.
It's a bit less again. It's more like 40, 60 now. Okay, cool. Thank you.
Okay. So.
It's not the next slide yet, is it?
No, this is just the results.
Okay.
So basically, what we found is that in our survey is that that's roughly fairly similar to the results that we got, which was 70-30 for both of those questions, all three of those questions. So we did ask an additional question in our survey, which we're not going to ask now, but it was the additional question was the one that made us think that we are in fact post-agile, which is how complete is the adoption of agile within your organisation? So,
Yeah, that's it.
it's a slightly crappy slide, but essentially we have to redesign that. But essentially, adoption seemed to only be at about 50%. So this has led us to conclude that post-agile state is real, and advancing beyond this point seems unlikely at this time. So consequences. What does this practically mean? For PMs who are accountable for both the team that they work in and the business, it makes your world look a bit like this. Which are product managers specifically, or anyone stuck in that gap, particularly lonely. And in this world where adoption of Agile has saturated tech teams but not the wider business they work in, it creates a vacuum of knowledge. The main task for a PM is to translate across that vacuum, and that is in itself creates challenges of its own. The best solution is to form teams that include your business partners, so think of Spotify squads. Again, this is fraught with challenges. The leadership, who may not have adopted Agile, need to buy into this, which in most cases, in my experience, they have not. And for some types of engineering programs, that's not possible. For example, the one I work in, it's not possible to form a squad. Which brings us on to the topic of a problem that we would like to call tiny kings versus tiny lions. A tiny lion is someone who knows what they're talking about and who fights valiantly to do the right things and in the right way, but whose voice does not get heard by the business. Typically, this is often an engineer or a UXer who's done a lot of research or analysis to find the answer to a problem. A tiny king is someone who is confident that their opinion is of the highest importance and will often not listen to any other plan than that which facilitates their own opinion. I think otherwise you might have known them as hippos. A PM's role is then to manage that relationship and mediate and make sure that both parties are aligned and can move forwards despite their very differing approaches to finding solutions. This can be a difficult space to operate in, and no matter what your job title is, if you find yourself in this space, you need some tools to survive.
So, a toolkit. Actually, I like this slide because team is the best tool of all, and beer. So, how are you going to cope in this new post-agile world? It's kind of this world of tiny kings and tiny lions where the business expects like 3 impossible things before breakfast. So we've got a few suggestions. Again, like we say, these have kind of been compacted down from a larger thing, but hopefully you'll get the idea. So the first one is to just be brilliant at basic stuff, right? So there's a lot of stuff that you can't go on a training course for. There's things that will help you out immeasurably, but you just need to kind of learn them organically. You can't really use a textbook. So you can embrace your own naivety. No one knows everything and no one can. So that naivety can be a really powerful weapon. Quite often your lack of knowledge can unlock something that everyone else takes for granted. Or actually, if you stick your head above the parapet, then it can empower others to reconsider what they do and they don't know. Similarly, challenge yourself daily. So be inquisitive and look for answers. So do things that make you feel uncomfortable and embrace awkward stuff. So look for the person you don't speak to or the requirement that you find hard. And if you're still thinking about how you bridge that gap of all the things that you don't know, you've kind of got 3 options. But one is stick your head in the sand, so it's not really an option. You can look for the person, you can find someone who knows, or alternatively, you can just become the person who knows. So there's this idea of there is a subject matter expert for everything. And if they don't exist, then you become that person. Don't underestimate the power of your network as well, things like this tonight. So much is who you know as much as what you know, and if you don't know the answer, then the chances are you probably know the person who does. Secondly, collaboration. So everyone's heard of pair programming, the idea of 2 heads being better than 1. We're also trying to introduce the idea of things like pair producting, so bringing pairing into other disciplines. We here at Just Eat, we have a product chapter, so we meet every couple of months, and is it sort of every couple of months. It's all the product managers across the business. We cover everything within product, from the people that run the little delivery robots all the way through to the people that are running finance and invoicing, like me. We have very, very different jobs, but there are things that you can learn across the way. And then finally, storytelling. This sounds really fluffy, but basically what it means is going out and talking about stuff. Basically, you can use kind of hard evidence to back up your instincts. You can use metrics. You can find a metric, move a metric, figure out what that metric is telling you, and that tells you your story. Whether that's greater conversion, whether that's more click-throughs, anything like that, basically. But most of all, show, don't tell. So if you're telling a story, be able to back it up. And that's about it. So it's a little bit shorter than we thought it would be. But yeah, so I hope you've enjoyed this little talk. Neither of us are hanging around because I've got to go bowling and Holly's got a date, I think. So. Are you going bowling? Because that would be awkward.
No.
Good. Anyway, look, so as we say, if you're interested in hearing any more, there is going to be a longer version at Product Camp in a couple of weeks. There's also going to be a longer version at the Software Product Management Conference. These are our details. Equally, if you just want to look at cat pictures, then I'm probably best for that. If you want dogs, it's Holly. Thank you.